a 40-year-old man named Osandu and a 35-year-old woman named Ogechi got married very late, not knowing what life had in store for them. Osandu, who was 40, found it very difficult to get married or fall in love till he was 40 and met the woman of his dreams, Ogechi. Let's talk about the movie A Man's Cry. Hey beautiful loves, welcome back to this channel where I talk about movies and movie recommendations. If you're new here, my name is Janelle, and if you're a returning subscriber, thank you so much for always coming back to my video. Now let's talk about this movie, A Man's Cry. This movie is right here on YouTube. All you need to do is search Fred Leonard TV. You're going to see it and you can enjoy it. The runtime of this movie is about 2 hours and 9 minutes. Now let's get into it. This movie opens up with this couple, this amazing couple, Osandu and his beautiful wife Ogechi, celebrating themselves, their anniversary, right? They just knew how to love on each other, and it was time for gifts. Osandu gives his wife an amazing gift. It was time for Ogechi to give her husband her gift, and Ogechi slums. I do not know till this time I'm doing this video if Ogechi planned slumming, right? But she did. And they get to the hospital. The doctor tells her husband that Ogechi is pregnant. So that was her anniversary surprise, and her husband appreciated it. Osandu is a wealthy man, so a lot of things he doesn't really need. He wasn't really even looking for like material gifts, right? And then they get back home, this couple for sure enjoyed their lives, like from the beginning of their marriage until Ogechi got transferred to another department, onshore department, right? So she had to go on a ship trip, right? Her husband, because Ogechi was 2 months pregnant, she refused to tell her boss that she was pregnant. Her husband did not accept. He did not agree as soon as she told him. But Osandu really loved his wife, that he said, there's no problem. If that's your dream, please let me know if there's any problem, right? If you do not feel comfortable at any point, let me know and we can contact your boss, and then you can get transferred. And it was looking like she had been expecting the move from one department to another, so she jumped on it. Now, I was suspecting that something bad was going to happen, but not like this. Now, Osandu bids his wife goodbye and she left. And shortly after, 2 men in front of Osandu's house saying, "Sorry, we lost her." Is that how you announce the death of a loved one? This was one of the reasons I didn't like this movie, but I'm going to explain everything and then let you know what I like in the movie and what I didn't like, right? So Osandu became very, very frustrated. A very happy man became a very sad man. Now, he even went as far as going to the office, his wife's office, to fight her boss, and told her boss that she was pregnant, and her boss was like, I didn't even know. Osundu comes back home. He started seeing his wife. I got really scared for him. Now, talking about this kind of story makes me feel a kind of way because of a story that is kind of personal, something I never think I'm going to share on this space, right? Losing a loved one is something that should not happen to even your enemy. Now, let's continue. Becky, an intern, comes into Mr. Osundu's office and she started working, and Mr. Osundu was not even around, all of this time. It was 4 years after his wife had died. Osundu was not over it. Becky was always asking about her boss. She wanted to meet him. She kept asking, and then there was a project, something they were supposed to do at the office, and they needed the expertise of their boss. But this man, Osundu, was not ready to come back to work. He was looking unkempt, he wasn't ready. But Becky said she would be able to do the presentation, and she was doing it whilst Osundu was on his way coming. They got the contract, right? And then it gave Becky a little access to her boss. She started coming to the house, to give him files, take some back to the office. But this man never looked at her because he was going through a lot. In fact, he was seeing a counselor. He was going through the hell of his life, the worst of his life. His wife was pregnant also, remember. Now, Mr. Osundu had to come back to work because obviously a lot of things were lagging behind. Now, Becky was very happy seeing this man because she loved older men. And before you knew it, because Becky was piquing a lot of interest, Osundu began to look at Becky's picture. Whatever Osundu was going home, Becky will rush, please sir, can you drop me off at so place? And then he got used to it, and then he took her to the beach where he used to take his wife, and Becky kissed him. She just said it felt right, and it was like, At this point, Osundu was already falling in love with Becky, and Becky was doing a lot of things. You guys know these Gen Z baddies. Becky was a baddie, and like a serious baddie. Like, she was a baddie, but she was a very serious person, very focused, very serious minded, and that was one reason Osundu liked her. In fact, she came to the house to drop a file, and she did a lot of pushing to get this man to this position, right? And then in the morning, he told her, Becky, I do not love you. She was like, oh, I can take anything you give me. And then, they started off loving up on each other. She would play games with him at the office. It was just love. And I knew, he was just very happy. His counselor had said, oh, congratulations, you can go on with life, you no longer need me. And I looked at this movie there was still like 45 minutes. I'm like, what a Gwen gang. What's going on? What's going on? Is there something? Because this was all I could see, right? And boom, Becky shouted, Jesus, Jesus. I also shouted Jesus on her behalf. Ogechi was knocking. It was Ogechi. What happened? It was Ogechi. She came in. This place still looks the same. As soon as Osundu came in, he slumped. Because, what? How? Becky was just very strong. If I was the one, I would leave that room, not just leave that house, leave that environment. But she was there, waited for Osundu. Osundu came, slumped. She helped him put water. He woke up. He was still shocked, and next thing, he was on his knees begging his wife, oh, I'm so sorry. Becky went in, took her bag, and left. Now, what's going on? What happened? She almost died when their boat or ship capsized, but she got saved and lost her baby. Becky was frustrated because she was so much in love with Osundu, so much in love with him. She was really frustrated, and Osundu was now overly frustrated because he was in love with two women, and whenever Ogechi comes to their bedroom, the thoughts in her head is, how many times did this man come to this bed with this girl, a young girl, a 22-year-old girl? Ogechi was always saying, I am not ready. It was 2 weeks. She didn't do anything with her husband. And then Ogechi and Osundu went for routine checkup, and saw Becky around that place. And Ogechi knew that this girl might be pregnant. But guess what happened? Ogechi was trying her best to fall back in love with her husband. In fact, she had to go and see Becky to have a conversation, because she knew her husband was in love with Becky. To have a conversation for what? To know if Becky was also in love with her husband, and also know if her marriage was worth saving, right? She felt really sad because her husband was not left to grieve for a longer time. And I kind of understand her. She said she felt ordinary, that this man would just grieve and mourn her for just 4 years. And this man had tried. He was suffering. And after that conversation with Becky, she was ready for her husband. And next thing, a car comes in for Becky and 25 million naira. When Becky was saying, oh, I'm going to sell this car, I didn't understand until I found out that she moved out of the country to another African country. I'm going to let you know what happened. Now, Becky was pregnant. For real, she was pregnant. And she didn't want to let Osundu know, because his wife was back. She moved to another country. It took a while for Osundu to come back to check on Becky, and finds out that Becky had moved out of the country because he was now in good terms with his wife, and they were just living life. And this made him feel so bad. He started begging Becky's roommate, to tell him where Becky was. But Becky had started her life somewhere else and was living life. And she said this child was just going to be the healing she needed. Right? She got settled, and Osundu comes back home to his wife, his pregnant wife. He couldn't tell her when he had read from that letter that Becky was pregnant, but he was just frustrated by himself, crying. I really do not know how to explain this movie, but I really do not wish this is happening, or this is a real life event. Now that's the end of this movie. That was the end of the movie. Two things I didn't like. I mentioned one before. The second thing is that they were singing sad music from the beginning of the movie, which wasn't correct. They were all loving up at the beginning of this movie, so I feel like that wasn't really necessary. They could have given us something really good at the beginning. And yes, that's it. The rating of this movie, I would say, because it was a good one, I would say a 7 over 10. It's a good watch, a good 2 hour. Yes, it was a good watch, and yes, go and watch it. And I hope to see you on my next video. Bye for now.